Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. We've got a new look for the podcast show. I've decided to go with all black and yellow, just to distinguish between the different shows that we have on this channel. So we've got the daily show that will be in that general blue color, that typical Cricket Fanatics Magazine blue that we have. But then we have black. So for the podcast show, and we've got like I must let the girls actually say what it is, but it's like, because I'm colorblind, so I struggle, but it's almost like a maroony type of red type of color for the Offside Maiden show. So I had to search for that color to make them happy. So I went on that search for that and to find that. But other than that, guys, welcome to the show. I hope you guys are going to be sit back, relax, and enjoy this discussion with us. You guys, the chat is open for you. You can talk to us. Let's have a conversation. Let's try to keep it civil, though. We can express your views. Let me know what you did this weekend. We can talk about all sorts of things on this show. This is the podcast show, so it's all laid back. I've got Paul waiting for me in the back end of the year. So before we get going, before I bring him onto the show, you guys know what you have to do. To all the new guys on the show, please subscribe, click that notification bell for future videos, please. It will really help us obviously grow as a publication and obviously grow as a channel. We are slowly but surely moving up the table with regards to subscribers. So help us get to that 2,000 mark. We're still pushing for that. Help us over there for that. If you want to help us out even further, you can. The super chat will be on right now, so you can go ahead and click on the super chat, and you can get your questions definitely read out on the show. I also have Aditya waiting for us in the back end. He can give us some insight into it as well, because I think these two guys, they would have done their research. When this news broke, I know they would have done their research, like myself, yes, but I had to put the story together and put it on the site. So I have a broad overview, but I think they would have gotten a lot more in depth to give us some insight into actually what's going on and where we're going to go forward as a cricketing nation. Because I feel right now it's very, it's all, like I said, it's up in flames. And it's a little ironic that I'm saying it's up in flames, given what's happening in Cape Town currently with the fire that's spread. I hope that, thank you very much, everybody out there, that all the firemen and all the people that are involved, that are working hard to put out those fires, and that have dedicated their time and effort on a Sunday to do that and to fight that. Well done, doing an excellent job. Keep it up. It's a very, very difficult time in this area, in that area particularly. There's a lot of historic places that have been affected by it. The UCT has been affected by it. A lot of their places burning down. Actually, the library been affected by it, and there's the Rhodes Memorial section, and Newlands Forest is one of the top hiking spots in the area that have been affected by it. So to all those guys that have been working hard tiresomely to try and get the fires out and to working around the clock to get it done, well done to all of you, and our prayers are with you and the families that have been affected by this. But without further ado, let's introduce our guests on the show today. We've got Paul on the show, and we've got Aditya. Welcome to the show, guys. Great to see you again. I mean, ironically, like, people are putting a bit of Villiers here with flames next to it, so it makes sense to the whole theme of the show today. First and foremost, where do we go? Because I'm going to give you my understanding first and foremost, and then I'll let Paul climb in, and then I'll go into Aditya to give your points of view as well. But my understanding currently is that the sports minister is obviously stepping in because of the vote that went sideways, kind of. They wanted to change the memorandum, and it didn't work because of the split vote. I think it was a 75% votes that went in, and only, I think, 3 guys didn't. So how it basically works is the members' council is made up of the 14 provinces, the presidents of the 14 provinces, and they have to make decisions on certain things in Cricket South Africa, vote on certain things as a body. Then you have the interim board, and we got more guys on the show. Let me just introduce you to them. It's Lubabalo, and we've got Ravi. It's a full house tonight, guys. Wow, I'm loving this. So welcome to the show, guys. I'm just gonna swap the two of you around. There we go. The name's not cut off. Let cricket be the winner. I like that. Awesome. So basically, we're sitting currently in a position where Cricket South Africa could be without, or South Africa could be without a national team. Now, currently it's sitting like that. We are making assumptions based on that whole thing that you're going to present to us, Paul, where out of those points, the minister will have to choose which ones of those he's going to implement. And based on that, we're going to see where cricket's going to go. Now, right at the bottom of the statement that Cricket South Africa released, they spoke about cricket in South Africa being that they're going to be talking to the minister this week to decide what's going to be happening. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with regards to that. So we don't know what's going to be happening, and we're going to have to wait and see what they say. But ultimately, it's going to be a tough decision for the minister to obviously make a decision, because I don't think that he actually wants cricket to dissolve. Will he be that brave? In my eyes, will he be that brave to say? Because I feel like the only reason he's having another meeting is because he expected them to maybe fold. And I think he expected the members' council to fold and then say, okay, we want the changes in the memorandum, but they didn't do so. So now he's having another meeting to discuss where we're going forward. Can you just give us a summary of your understanding, and then we'll go around the room to talk
about. How long do you guys have? So I think just to start off with what's happening behind the scenes. Obviously, we know that cricket was in turmoil. There was a lot of corruption and there's a lot of mismanagement of funds that came out with the Fundudzi report last year that implicated certain members of the Cricket SA executive. And largely all of the Fundudzi report led to was the Cricket South Africa Board of Directors. That board at that time, and still is held by is majority made up of the members' council. And if you think about the members' council are the custodians of cricket, essentially the shareholders of the game of cricket in South Africa. They have majority say in how cricket is run in South Africa and also at CSA. So what then happened was, when all this drama came out, the Minister of Sport called CSA to Parliament, and he then questioned as to why the Judge Nicholson report that came out earlier, closer to the beginning of the decade, was not followed. And the Judge Nicholson report was also against a scandal in cricket on corruption. And that then said that the Cricket South Africa Board should be made up of majority independent members in line with corporate governance principles in South Africa for public companies. So that's where the thing. So then the minister then instituted an interim board, to which some members of the members' council were not happy about, to try and fix this and get Cricket South Africa on the path of an interim of a majority independent board. So then what happened was then, in the discussion of the interim board that the minister brought in, some members, council members, were not happy. So then they had to split the number of independent members on that board. But the main job of the interim board actually was to change the memorandum of incorporation of CSA to ensure that it accounts for that majority independent decision making board. So what's been happening over the past 5-6 months is that the interim board has reached the point where they're ready to present these findings to the members' council and get the members' council to vote. What the members' council have been doing is that they've been fighting certain decisions by the interim board to stop this vote from happening. What happened over the past 2 weeks is that the members' council and the interim board somehow reached some sort of an agreement that they were going to agree to this majority interim board. That's why the meeting was set for yesterday. It was a special general meeting, and only in that meeting they were going to change 2 clauses. One was to have a majority independent board, which is made up of independent businessmen and lawyers and everybody else. And the second one was to make sure that you have an independent chair in charge of that board. In case of a deadlock, he would have the deciding vote. The members' council then came with the most beautiful thing you will never believe. So in South African sport is run by SASCOC, which is South African Olympic Committee, and they pretty much decide the running of all the sporting federations in the country. And in SASCOC's articles and documents for all sporting federations, there is no place they haven't agreed. SASCOC have never agreed on any federation having a majority independent board. It's always been sport has been run by those sport people. So i.e. cricket has been run by cricket people. But obviously now the minister is literally jumping over SASCOC and going and doing it himself. So SASCOC were at the meeting yesterday. And when everybody arrived at the meeting thinking that they were going to vote this majority independent board, which would move South African cricket going forward, which is what pretty much everybody was asking. The members' council then came back and tried to hide behind SASCOC. The SASCOC member was there to just only observe the proceedings. He then ended up speaking and saying, and he said on record that this goes against all the things that are happening in other federations in sport. So then the vote happened, and the vote happened in such a way that the first vote was for the majority independent board. 6 out of the 14 provinces voted yes.
Yes.
5 of the 14 provinces voted no. 3 provinces abstained. And that's a big implication, because if those 3 provinces voted yes, we wouldn't be in the situation in the first place.
Yep.
We wouldn't be talking about this. We'd be worrying about Mark Boucher. And then in the second vote for the independent chair, 5 of the 14 provinces voted yes, 4 abstained, so 1 of the previous one abstained, and 5 then decided to vote no. So there's a power block of 5 provinces that's pretty much holding South African cricket to ransom. And their big reasoning around all of this, the way I see it, is that they don't want independent people coming in because certain things will change, i.e. members of the CSA board get paid every time a board meets. So you get paid a stipend, which has never happened in cricket before this past decade, when I think Harun Logart started coming in and Tabang started coming in. They actually changed and they voted to pay themselves to meet. So that was the one thing that's kind of holding them back. The other thing is that they are afraid of the people who are advising the minister. And so that's where the other issue comes in, is that those who are advising the minister, some members of the CSA board are not happy with, i.e. one of them, a former CSA president, being Harun Logart. They were not happy about him. They have never been happy about him throughout this entire process. So there's a lot of fighting for the power of cricket. So what the minister then said was, he then has powers as the Minister of Sport in South Africa to intervene under Section 13.5. And Section 13.5 allows him to intervene if a body or a sporting body has not fulfilled the recommendations that he set out or SASCOC have set up to conclude. So in this case, you're supposed to change the memorandum of incorporation and have a majority independent board. You failed to do that, Cricket South Africa. So under Section 13.B1, he can intervene in a dispute or mismanagement of the cricket if they fail to resolve. So they failed to resolve the issue, so he's intervening. What Section 13.5 then says is that if he does intervene, he can refrain from funding the federation. So he can stop SASCOC from paying CSA. I don't know how the money works between SASCOC and CSA, because CSA's money is largely from broadcasters, but the minister has that. And then he can also, in 13C2, notify the federation in writing that it will not be recognized as a sport and recreation in South Africa, which means that cricket may not be recognized as an official sport in South Africa. Yeah. That means any South African cricket team that plays cricket from now on may not be playing under the banner of South Africa. They'll probably wear a different color, call themselves a different name, similarly like the rebel tours of that era when sport was banned in South Africa. Yep. But they still call themselves South Africa, but we all knew the truth. So that's where it is, and we're just waiting for the minister to put this into place. As Khalid said, does he have the guts to do so? I say he must, because there's 2 months between now and the West Indies tour, and then the Ireland tour and going to the World Cup. If that group of 5 in the members' council is still willing to hold on to their belief that cricket should be run by cricket people and the current structure must stay, even though the current structure got us into this hole, if they have 2 months to make sure that Cricket South Africa doesn't run out of money, because we're moving into the new revenue cycle where they need to do broadcast rights as well as get tours in so that South African cricket gets money. So this is the lever that the Minister of Sport is pulling. I'm going to stop there, and that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, that's basically is what it is. I'm going to move on to Aditya now, but I want to just add something in here. You know, what I think is the problem is it's not one or the other. There needs to be somewhere in the middle that is the perfect haven for South African cricket. Because I think the one side is arguing that we want more cricket people to run cricket in South Africa, and I agree with that. But then on the other hand, there are some guys that say, no, we need some lawyers, we need some people that are with a different mindset that are going to run it from a governance point of view from that end, business people, business-minded people to run it in from that end. So I'm saying there needs to be something in the middle. If you've got a cricket guy, I don't think that they should have presidents that are also on the board. I don't think they should be on both sides of the spectrum. You either run your cricket board in your province, or you run a cricket board in South Africa, or you're on the cricket board in Cricket South Africa. You have to give up one of them. I feel. I think that having these multiple roles makes it difficult, because then how do you unbiasedly vote for something if you're thinking about your province currently and what if they are going to get what they deserve or they don't get what they deserve, and then also think about Cricket South Africa going forward, and I try to find that bias is that unbiased decisions to make is very difficult. My major concern over here is the ICC. Now, this is where I want to ask Aditya. Do you think that the minister will have the guts to be able to intervene to a point where the ICC step in? Because that's going to be something that is going to crush South African cricket. Because even when it comes to domestic cricket, if they decide, for example, that, okay, CSA says they're going to still exist and still create cricket tournaments, still have domestic cricket, all of those type of things, and make it a cash money cow, and you're not going further from there. You're not going to, because South Africa won't be obviously recognized as a Proteas team. Then what will happen is you're not going to go get further honors. It's going to cause a lot of problems in South Africa. A lot of guys are going to want to leave because they want to play for a country, for a country. Either go to New Zealand, or either go to Australia, or either go to. We're going to see a lot of more massive exodus from South African cricket. I want to ask you, from your point of view, do you think from the way the ministers operated, because if it was 100%, I want to get involved with Cricket South Africa, you would have done it already, I feel. When it was going bad a couple of months, a year ago, before lockdown, it was already happening. I think he would have engaged already then. But the way it's going at the moment, I think he's looking for compromise. And he's trying to find a way that we can keep South African cricket happy, but also keep the government happy. I don't know. What is your point of view on that?
Yeah, it does look like there is some sort of an effort for a compromise, but from an ICC point of view, I think ICC doesn't like instability of this nature. ICC doesn't like dealing with these sort of problems, and we've seen how they've dealt with Zimbabwe before, where Zimbabwe has been suspended on multiple occasions for for that government interference in cricket. So I honestly hope that it doesn't go in that same direction. But in saying that, South Africa is obviously a very valued part of the ICC, and in fact, Dave Richardson has been CEO of the chairman of the ICC, I believe, in recent years. So I think that value is there, but I think they need to fix this issue very quickly. Otherwise, you've got a World Cup coming up, 3 World Cups coming up essentially in 3 years, and unless there is a very quick intervention, I don't know what the outcome of this could be. But yeah, it's a grim situation right now for sure.
Luba, I mean, we haven't had you on the show in a while to talk about those things, and I'm happy that you're here for this one. You're not normally a guy that likes to talk about politics. I know that. But I need to ask your point of view on this, because where does South Africa go from here now? I'm saying that we're currently in trouble. We are currently looking the way we are. But how do we come out of this positively? What was your first initial reaction when you saw this news surface?
I was very shocked, to be honest, because I remember a few months ago when the sort of new panel came through, everyone was expecting things to get better from where they were. When if you remember the Tamang Morel saga and everything else, everyone sort of thought maybe things are gonna get better from there. But if you actually look at it, it seems like things have sort of stopped a bit and they started getting worse again, which is a bit worrying because we expected these new guys who've come through in the new board. We expected them to sort of clean up the mess and fix things, but it looks like instead of fixing things, they've sort of made things worse. You can actually go back to when they started sort of fighting amongst themselves. I remember Ompile Ramela was also part of them, but then somehow they managed to get him out. So I don't know. I'm not sure whether it's an issue of people being power hungry or what it really is. But if people are not willing to put South African cricket first, then we might actually find ourselves in a position where we don't have cricket in the country, or even if we do have cricket, that it won't be recognized either by the ministry or the ICC. Worst case scenario, which is for me, it would it would break a lot of hearts, to be honest. And as one of our mates has mentioned here, that we might even see a lot of players leaving the shores to try and play in other countries, because if there's no cricket that's recognized in South Africa, why would someone who wants to make a living out of cricket actually stay in the country? So it's a sad period for all of us. None of us really know where to from here. But for me, I sort of understand. I feel like the minister, he has he has the right thing at heart, to be honest. The only thing he wants CSA to be run properly, and that's what we want. But it looks like reluctance. People are benefiting more than what we think they're benefiting from being part of CSA, which is probably why they do not want things to change for the better. It's really sad. Um, but what can we do from where we are? Don't really know, right?
Now, Ravi, the question I have for you is something that I think that you'll be able to probably answer quite comprehensively and well. Is when you're looking at having a cricketing body that are cricket orientated and all they think about is cricket running the sport, or whether you think that people that are more business orientated or government organizations or people that are in the law faculties, etc., law like judges, etc., all of those type of things, do you want people that are non-cricket related running the sport? Where do you lie between the two? Because I think it's kind of at the moment a battle between the two.
I think there's a battle between three aspects actually. So welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to our viewers from all over the country and South Africa at large. And obviously, there's quite a few people from India that are also tuning in. I think it's a trifecta of things. So it's going to come down to money, performance, and the governance side of things. So from a money point of view, we know we've lost sponsors. From a revenue generating point of view, I know Jacques Paul was very instrumental in getting some of the corporate sponsors that sort of supplemented the void that was left by Standard Bank. Uh, and the challenge is that we need a continuous revenue stream to come in to the environment, because it's really not as profitable as it used to be. If I think back to 8 years ago, they hit the 200 million mark. Excuse me. Yeah, I get nervous when I talk about that kind of figures. But when they hit the 200 million mark about 8 years ago, unfortunately, we've never seen that kind of revenues ever again. And I have to say, it's a testament to the leadership that was introduced since the exiting of Harun Logat. In addition to that, there's a performance aspect as well. So in that regard, you need cricket-minded people. You need people that understand the game, that they've played at that level, to manage the resources appropriately. These are the guys that are going to make the decisions whether or not Mark Boucher is the right man to take the helm as coach, whether or not the leadership in all three formats are the right guys, whether our selection criteria has been met, whether it needs to be changed as well. So we need cricket-minded people as well from a performance standpoint. And then the last one, which is the main focal point of this evening, is the governance side. Um, right now, our biggest challenge is that, and it's weird. I mean, I think when I first started getting acquainted with you and Paul Aditya about just over a year ago, we were kind of in a funny place when Tabang Moroyo wasn't even allowed onto the parking lot at CSA. And right now, a year later, it feels like, the more things have changed, the more they remain the same. And I think Lubabalo mentioned that a short while ago. And I just feel that we're going around in circles. When I look at Nati and Tetwa, I think he legitimately wants to see the cricket persevere in South Africa. He wants to see us get back into our winning ways as well. But the more I see him interact with the various bodies that are involved in Cricket South Africa, it's like watching a school principal at a primary school trying to stop a fight. These little grade fives are like still hitting each other, uppercutting each other, and he's still trying to stop the fight. And I just feel that at some point we need to say to ourselves, when is the circus going to end? Do we need to escalate this further? Paul mentioned some very good points about the various acts that are at play, the various conditions in which these individuals are engaging with, and they perhaps they are engaging at appropriate levels. But the challenge is that we've been going around in circles. Nothing is actually moving. So it's kind of been a carousel of sorts. And at some point, we need to say to ourselves, should we escalate this further to Nati and Teto? Because I can tell you what the ICC is going to say at some point. They're going to sort of categorize us or box us in the same sort of category as they did with Zimbabwe all those years ago. Aditya alluded to that when he was talking a short while ago. And I think we're in danger of that happening. The ICC would rather say, you know what, you guys need to handle your business before you want to do business with us. And as is their right. Why must they get involved in politics? Why must they get involved in corporate governance? They have to do that at such a high macro level as it is. Why must we have another complicated relationship with South Africa on top of that? So we'll disengage and let you guys figure things out, and then you can come back to the party. And I think that's a big danger for South African cricket because A, revenue is going to be hindered, and B, obviously playing time is going to go, and C, we're going to stand a huge risk losing our massive talent pool as it stands right now. And the guys at the cream of the crop, while they're still in their prime, they're going to say, you know what, we're going to take our craft overseas. We're going to go to county, we're going to play Sheffield Shield, and obviously we're going to have ambitions of playing in the IPL as well. So all of those things are at play right now. And, there's just so much risk, and I don't think the people that legitimately want to see this game persevere in South Africa, I don't think they realize the full gravity of the situation. I think at some point we need to say to ourselves, how do we pull the plug on Seskok unfortunately intervening at this juncture? Because as far as I understand it, if they didn't intervene today, they probably would have had a finished vote and we would have been expediting some of the decisions that were made today, that should have been made today at least. Because that's how I understand it. And these interventions were pulled at the last minute. People are using decision-making rights, maybe to get some paper, maybe to get some more money for themselves. There's a stipend that these members are getting. And it's clear as daylight that the Members' Council are being a massive, a roadblock of sorts to many things. And I think we need to, as the late Arsenal podcast, whose name I always seem to forget, the bald gentleman in the UK. Yeah, he's always known for saying it's time to go. I think we need to get into that train and say, guys, it's time to get rid of these individuals. Clearly, they're disabling cricket in this country. Clearly, they've got completely remotely different interests to the integrity of the game. It's time to move on from them. It's time to get this out of the way. And if it means getting the president or the deputy president involved somewhere along the lines, we need to be aggressive about this. This is one of those things that's going to keep on going if we don't intervene now.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best comments in this comment section over here is need people who say, what can I do for cricket, not what can cricket do for me. Now, Paul, that is something that we need more people of that think of cricket in that way in this country.
Yes, and I think the problem that we're all facing is that these people can't just be fired by a minister. You have to follow processes and things. And the big issue with South African cricket is that Tabang and the executive have been moved out. They were moved out last year. Those members of the board were moved out. The independent members of the board resigned. The people who are still left in the board are the members of the members council. And the only way that those members of the members council can be moved is in their provincial unions. They have votes, they have an AGM every year, and a new president comes in and everything else, and that's how they vote. Those people are still the same people that have stayed on the CSA board. And the members council at every turn has been pushing things out. Yes, the interim board hasn't been great. Yes, the interim board has had drama. Yes, the interim board has been fighting, but the interim board have now completed what the minister had asked them to do. The big issue that the members council is hiding behind is the fact that no other sport in the country has ever done this before. And the thing about this is that I think when the Sports Act was done and when SASCOC was done and when they created all of these things, was that was back in the day when there wasn't a lot of revenue in sport. Sports were played by those who were run by those who played it, and it was run in like a club system where you vote and everything. There's not a lot of money going across. And what has happened over the years, especially for the big three sports in South Africa, is that the revenues have increased by a massive, massive factor, that now you can't no longer see a sport as just a sporting federation, like you're a small sport and it's a club and you're working with like 10,000, 100,000 rand. You're working with hundreds of millions of rands, and that's a business. And you are running it in the public interest because it is a South African sport. They represent us as the public. And which is why, and if you're a company on the JSE, you're required to have a majority independent board. You're required to have the corporate governance principles that are espoused in the Companies Act. Because you're running it as a business, you're running it for profit. This is not an NGO that we're running at CSA. We're running a profit organization. And because of that, you then need to have majority independent or a sizable chunk of independent board members that can sway the shareholder views in the best interests of the other stakeholders, i.e. the public, us, and everyone else that is involved. And that's where the issue comes in with the members council, is that how long, and the question right now is, how long will they hold out? Because the longer they hold out, and if the minister puts this in place, and I hope he does, if the minister puts this decree in place, it's a question of how long are the members council willing to hurt cricket in South Africa. And as long as this members council structure will always be there, you're going to find this. And that's the problem about all of this, is that every key decision that is discussed in or voted on in the Cricket South Africa board will effectively be independent board members majority, and the minority will be members council. And they're afraid that those that don't know cricket will always be voting for the business rather than the game. And I get that. And that's why one of the compromises was have a 50-50 independent and members council board. And if you want to win in terms from a voting perspective, if you want to get your motion through, you have to lobby someone from the other side to follow you. And then if there's a deadlock, then you have a chair who I would say must be independent. And the problem is that there's so many egos, there's so many emotions, and there's so many narratives on either side that is blocking this thing from happening. And that is why the minister should have stepped in a long time ago. He did by creating the interim board. The interim board was blocked by the members council. And the problem with cricket in South Africa is everything you do needs to go through the members council. You can't just be like, I'm the minister, I do this. So the minister's now intervened after he's given the directive and it's no longer been resolved. So I think he needs to go through with it, because that's what the members council is hoping. They want to call his bluff. And if they do, it's going to go to court, because SASCOC has not had this majority independent before. So we're going to have a long court case. And that's where the issue comes in, is that how long must it be, because the cricket is going to suffer. And right now we don't know what's going to happen with domestic cricket, but what we know is that from an international perspective, that there can't be a team that represents South Africa if the minister does this.
Yeah. Now, Lubabala, I'm going to ask you this before I go to Aditya again, because I think Aditya can follow up from this, because it will be a loss. So what I want to ask you is, let's go worst case scenario. Let's say we get banned from South African cricket. I mean, we get banned from world cricket. South Africa gets banned. The minister steps in. There's government involvement. South Africa doesn't exist anymore as a nation that plays South African cricket. How do we come back from that?
Well, um, I'm not sure any of us would really want to see us go that route. I'm really hoping we don't have to go that route. Because if that happens, it's also going to hurt us financially. So let's say worst case scenario, it happens. When we come back, we'll be basically starting from scratch. Um, which means we'll be starting from the bottom, which is something that could actually take us years back to what we were before all of this happened. So to be honest with you, I'm really trying not to think about it. I'm really trying not to see it happening, even though chances are massive that we could actually go that route. But I'm hoping, I'm hoping and praying that somehow there's a solution somewhere that doesn't involve us being banned from cricket.
I mean, Aditya, South Africa not playing any bilateral series, not playing in the World Cup. The financial implications of that is so huge, especially with regards to getting fans on board with regards to the sport and South Africa as a whole, as a country. You want people and the public to be happy as well, But from a financial point of view, it will be such a massive implication if it does go that way. It will be so negative for the country. I mean, can you see a world without cricket, without South Africa in cricket?
No, certainly not. And you look at the rich history of cricket in South Africa and the sort of competition that South African teams have provided over the years. One thing that this conversation has reminded me of is that period before South Africa was readmitted to international cricket. And, I remember reading in Sachin Tendulkar's book, and, I think India had toured South Africa in 1992, when he said that he was so surprised to see the high quality of cricket in South Africa. And part of the reason was because the South African domestic structure was incredibly strong at the time, and they also had a host of foreign players who would come and play, like Otis Gibson, who went on to coach South Africa, had played in the South Africa domestic setup in that period of time. And, eventually in the years after that, for at least a couple of decades after that, South Africa was a dominant force in international cricket. To see that not being there anymore should be heartbreaking to any cricket fan. Particularly seeing that most people complain anyway that not enough countries play the game. There were so many critics. As exciting as the 2019 World Cup was, there were so many critics who said that you cannot have a 10-team World Cup. It simply does not work. It doesn't make you a global game if you're having 10 teams competing in a World Cup. And to have South Africa removed from that list would be even worse. So this is an incredibly unfortunate situation that the game finds itself in. And I think more than anything, it's time to sort of revise some of those antiquated structures involving the members' council, where a group of members, and I don't want to take any names, but essentially sort of instigated by one ring leader in that pack, to vote a certain way and then ultimately hold the memorandum of incorporation hostage, is simply unacceptable. And at some point, as someone in the comment section mentioned, that it's time for these individuals to think of how they can serve cricket as opposed to the other way around. So I agree with everything that both said, Vipado, Ravi. They all provide incredible insight, and I think at this point it just remains to be seen what the minister really does, and whether he actually strips Cricket South Africa of all its powers, or actually proposes some sort of compromise that would let the organization continue in perhaps an amended way, but continue nonetheless.
So we know that they're going to be speaking about it this week coming, and they're going to decide what the way forward is for South African cricket. So let's move on from this topic from one negative to another negative. Let's talk about, I want to get you guys' opinion on one particular thing. So there's scrutiny regarding the coach, Mark Boucher, and he's getting a lot of criticism all around social media and amongst the fans. It's been in this live chat as well. So there's a lot of scrutiny when it comes to Mark Boucher as a coach. My question to you guys is the scrutiny fair? Because I feel personally that if this was any other coach, i.e. Enoch, if Jeffrey Diana was a coach as well, if it was Russell Domingo, Otis Gibson got a lot of flack for losing games. I remember when Enoch was coach of interim coach of South Africa, and we went to India and we got slaughtered there. That to me felt equally as hurtful as the England defeat. So, but it was harder for Enoch to go and do the job over there as an interim coach, just meeting his players, going on a tour instantly, than Boucher when he faced England. But to only win 2 series in the last however amount of series, 14 series or 12 series, whatever amount it is not, I kind of feel that it's not acceptable. But on the flip side, there are some excuses or things that you can say for Boucher, the fact that he's never had his full strength team. So I'm going to go around the room over here. I'm going to start with him, Paul. Is the scrutiny that Mark Boucher getting fair?
I think it is. I think, yes, there were some series that we were going to lose, and it's 3 out of 12 that he's won. There were some series that we're going to lose even with our full strength side. And I think he's worked in a period where he wasn't necessarily fully hampered by the transformation because of the changing interim boards and everything else, who was going to be holding them accountable. And so I kind of felt that he had those opportunities to kind of put into place his plans. And the problem is that we've been told about the smart, aggressive cricket, but it's not coming to fruition. And he said in the press conference yesterday that the players were the ones who came up with the idea that they wanted to play in this manner. And all he does as a coach is guide people through, guide them to meet this plan. The question for me, for him in a sense, is that yes, the plan is great. That it's great that the players can bring up their own plans and come up with this idea. But does it suit the type of people you have? As Khalid says all the time, players need to play the natural game. They need to play in the way that they're used to. So those are the one things that I'd want to get. The other issue is, what have we learned? Has there been can he name one player that he's improved? Or a set of players that has improved under his tutelage, or whatever it is. The one guy I can give you is Aiden Markham. I think Aiden Markham in the turn of the year has improved quite a lot. I don't know if he'll ascribe it to Mark Boucher or his own work that he did during the lockdown, but I'll give that to him. He's the one player that has improved. Outside of that, that's not. The other thing is, what's the plan going to the World Cup? Currently, right now, we haven't seen a plan, and it's typical of South African sports teams to only start planning in the final year before the World Cup. SA Rugby planned 3 years before the World Cup, but now we are here, and we still haven't seen a series where at least where the 15 has assembled, and we haven't had IPL before. Yes, there've been some tournaments, and guys will have to come through. But for me, that's the most important thing for Mark Boucher right now, because it feels to me he's reliant on AB de Villiers winning him that World Cup and the IPL guys winning him that World Cup. And he's not reliant on any chemistry. He's reliant on these guys coming together as a group, because they do so well against the best guys in the world in the IPL that you can put them together and you can win. And he's hoping for that. And I know it's real. I know it's really hard to work with the next group of guys, and I'll give him that, and to a certain extent all the series. I don't say fire him now. I say wait until after the World Cup and we can have a chat. But for me, I'm just hoping that this plan of his will come to fruition, because Otis Gibson had a massive fight with Tabang Moroe about sending guys to the IPL in a World Cup year, and he didn't get that. I kind of felt that, yes, you can't deny players an income, and the whole point of CSA being in this situation right now kind of pushed Mark to not be able to fight for players. But I would have hoped, at least for this series, that those players could have played, so he could have seen what his World Cup 11 looks like, or what his World Cup 15 looks like, because he says he has 22 guys. I'm not too sure whether he's sure how he's going to, whether he can build the chemistry and build the team to win the World Cup. But that's for me. So right now, look, he's had some tough moments, but if it was anybody else, he would have been fired by now.
Yeah. Now, Aditya, I want to ask you that question as well. When you heard that the South African guys are going to go to the IPL, now you're obviously a massive fan of the IPL too. I mean, obviously being from India, etc., and obviously living in the city of the champions currently. So it's one of those type of situations where it is a lot of entertaining cricket, I must say. There's some games that are really nail-biting from an entertainment point of view. Maybe not the best cricket on display, inverted commas, if you want to talk about the proper cricket that we want to see. But first and foremost, your thoughts on the scrutiny of Boucher and the decision to actually allow his players to go.
All right. If you talk about Boucher, it's a 50-50 situation. I understand the sentiment and why a lot of the public might be incensed with a lot of the results and perhaps some of the choices that have been made over this period of time. Do I agree with it? I don't know, because I think you do have to look at the quality of players that you've got and the skill set that they possess vis-a-vis the opposition that you've got as well, right? So if we're talking about this series specifically, we're talking about a settled Pakistani team that have played a large number of international T20s, that have played a large number of PSL games. Let's not forget that Babar Azam over the last year or two has witnessed significant improvements in his game because he's also been a leading PSL player. So that helps. Shaheen Shah Afridi. So these things have sort of expedited their development as well, right? Now with South Africa, if you look at the second string team that South Africa had, there was no way that we could expect that they're always going to go into the series as underdogs. So is it fair to blame Boucher for that? I'm not so sure about that. It's not. Like if Sisanda Magala bowls 2 no balls in his last over of that game, it's going to be very difficult to win that. And I don't think that is Boucher's fault necessarily. Same if you go back to England a year ago. I don't think after posting 226 on the board and England chase it down within 18 overs, I don't think we can ascribe that blame to Boucher's coaching as such. And I'd say the same with the Pakistan series. The test series that was played in Pakistan, how much of it was really Boucher's responsibility versus players exhibiting some sort of game sense. And let's not forget that a lot of these players have come in from domestic cricket. It's not, Boucher alone cannot be responsible for bridging that gap between domestic and international cricket. He can't, I don't think any coach can do that. So Ravi Shastri right now, he's top of the wall. After Ravi Shastri's also gotten a lot of criticism as the head coach of the Indian team. And every time India does poorly in a test match, there are calls for him to resign or to be sacked. Okay, but now that he's won that Australian tour with a bunch of players who in normal times would not have been selected to the test squad, and now he's become a hero. But the fact of the matter is that those players have come through a rich domestic program, a high number of India A programs, India A tours, and a fantastic director at the NCA, a man called Rahul Dravid. Virtually every single individual who played on that Australia tour has been mentored by Rahul Dravid and has come into the international circuit fully prepared to play. Now, that's a process that has been followed, and I don't think Ravi Shastri should get too much credit for it, other than fine-tuning for that particular series. But I'd say the same with Boucher. I don't think Boucher should get the blame for it if the domestic circuit hasn't prepared cricketers to play at the international level, or has not sort of fine-tuned their abilities or made them that finished product.
Okay.
I forgot the second question that you asked.
No, it's fine. We can get back to that one because I'm gonna move on from that point because it goes straight into the question that I wanted to ask Luba Balo. Luba, a lot of the talk was around criticism that Boucher gets is around his selection. Now, I know I did just say that about you can't blame Boucher for the domestic setup and not preparing guys for domestic cricket. But there are some selections that he made that are questionable. We feel that there are guys that are ready for the international stage that he didn't pick, i.e. Kyle Verreynne, George Linde in the ODI series, Janneman Malan in the ODI series. There are certain guys that he selected that people are like, wait a minute, you have the players, but you're just not picking them. So your thoughts on Boucher, if the scrutiny is fair, and his selection going forward when he's picking his teams? Or do you think that people are fair to criticize the way he selected the teams over this Pakistan series specifically?
Hey, look, to be honest with you, it would probably take me the whole night to sort of unpack this. So I'll just try and simplify it. For me, I think it's not clear cut. I understand people that say, well, he's not producing the results. At the same time, I understand the people in his defense. But there's this narrative that I don't really agree with. Yes, our domestic cricket is not the greatest. Yes, our standard is not great. But one thing we need to remember is that domestic cricket is not there to give you finished products. When AB got selected for the national team, he wasn't the AB that we see now. AB became the AB that we see now through playing international cricket, through being coached in international cricket. AB improved through international cricket. So if Mark Boucher wants domestic cricket to give him finished products, then maybe he's not the right guy for the job. His job is to pick guys from domestic cricket. His job, and if you remember, a point that was made about him being hired is that he's played international cricket. He knows international cricket. He knows the ins and outs of international cricket. So he should probably be the first person that's going to have it easy to actually get those guys to get going when it comes to international cricket because he knows how it is to play international cricket. So if we're going to say domestic cricket is failing him, I don't think it's true. Our standard is poor. It's not great. I'm not going to lie. But you have a guy like Aiden Markram. Aiden Markram, he's been struggling to live up to his full potential under the tutelage of Mark Boucher. That's also a question to ask yourself. Why has Aiden Markram sort of been struggling so much, even though he's been packed? Is Mark Boucher actually successful at breaking through to Aiden Markram? Or is it maybe Aiden Markram was just told you're good enough and that's it? Because as much as we can all say the national team is not there to teach people, and our domestic cricket is not great, but we have players that are slightly above or well above the standard that our cricket is. Because if you look at guys like Kyle Verreynne, those guys are too good. So if we can see them now when they're given opportunities, they're performing. So for me, it's not necessarily a case of our domestic cricket not being good enough. It's not good enough, but it does produce players who are good enough. Maybe it's not producing the number of players that we're expecting it to produce at the moment, but there are players who are good enough. Give them opportunities; they will show you that they're good enough. Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, as a coach, you judge based on your results, and that's how it is, unfortunately. I don't know if you remember, Khalid, when I don't remember when it was, but for me, I told you I don't always judge the coach in terms of the number of matches that he wins, but I judge the coach in terms of how the team is playing. For me, even today, I don't understand the brand of cricket that the Proteas want to play. I don't want to be told the brand of cricket that they play. I want to see it. Today, the Proteas are aggressive. The following day, they play a different brand of cricket. I'll make an example with the Test series that we played in Pakistan. You sort of didn't understand You didn't understand the idea in terms of our cricket that we were playing. You just couldn't understand even the whole structure. I mean, look at the last T20 that we played. We can, yeah, Magala bowled poorly that over. We bowled no ball, no balls. That was poor. I'm not gonna lie. But did we have enough runs on the board? You will never post enough runs on the board with only four batsmen. Where was the structure in that team? What was the idea behind the whole picking four batsmen in the team? And mind you, you're playing against Pakistan that has a top three or top four that's been scoring runs. Why would you go in with just four batsmen? So for me, I sort of don't understand the brand of cricket that Mark Boucher wants the team to play. I'm sure you guys remember I once wrote in the group that I would actually like to sit down and listen to him speak about his philosophy. I'd like to listen to him to speak about the way he wants to see the team play. Because right now, him telling us that it's players that said they want to play like this. No, that's not how it should be. The coach must come to the team and say, well, Oates, this is how I, as a coach, want you guys to play. This is how I expect you guys to play. So, what do you guys think? So, for now, it sounds like the players went to Mark and said, well, coach, this is how we want to play. What do you think? And it shouldn't be like that. It should be the other way around. For me, it sounds like he's shifting the blame a bit. Listen, you might. I don't think. I don't think even not having our best players was sort of an issue. For me, it's always how we play. For me, that's always the question. Like I made that example with the last T20. You're going in with seven bowling options. And how many of those did we use? We didn't even use all of them. Even in the previous game, we went in with so many bowling options, but we didn't use all of them in a match where we were supposed to use them. Well, I know someone's going to say, but that was the captain. Okay, kudos. But
Mhm.
why do we pick? Why do we pick so many bowlers, even though we know we need more batsmen on the side? Where's the structure? Where's the whole thinking behind the whole thing? So for me, that's my big problem with him. I don't understand where he is taking the team. I don't understand where he wants to take the team. And there's one thing, that's last thing I'm gonna say now. It worries me how often he entertains the question around AB de Villiers. It's almost like he doesn't trust himself without AB in the side. It honestly worries me because at this point in time, I don't remember when last AB de Villiers retired, the last time he played for SA. But if you can recall, I think for the past 12 months, he has they've been asking Mark Boucher about AB de Villiers, and he always gives the same answer. Well, the door is open for him. Mark, AB knows the door is open for him. Give it to him now. Next time, personally, if I knew Mark Boucher, I'd actually tell him, I'd like to see you move away from that question now. If a journalist comes to you and asks you, where does AB stand? Just tell them, I told you like a few months ago, the door is open for AB. Fine, and that's it. He's left the ball in AB's court. Why is he always entertaining this question? He honestly has bigger problems than ABA. Because if AB decides, no, I don't want to play, then what? What's going to happen to Mark if AB decides, well, I don't want to play, but Mark, it's almost like he's low key trying to beg AB to come back. And that's what worries me.
Mhm.
The way he's always
Yeah.
entertaining. I've heard Mark Outer refuse to answer questions in press conferences, but the AB question, he's always willing to answer the question. I don't understand. For me, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things I'm going to say here before I ask Ravi his question. First and foremost, Aditya sent me a image with a quote from AB saying that last year Boucher asked me if I would be interested in playing in the T20 World Cup. And I said, absolutely. And come the end of the IPL, we'll have a look where we are at with regards to my form and my fitness. So that was AB's answer when it comes to playing for South Africa again in the T20 World
Exactly.
Cup.
Even before COVID struck, that was what AB said. So why are we going around in circles? AB and Mark have spoken. Let's leave it there. Let's wait for AB to decide because that's how it is. AB, if AB wakes up tomorrow feeling like he smacks a World Cup, then he can come through. It's fine.
Okay, so now this comes and this is another criticism. One of the criticisms that we can lay on the table. I saw people going in the comment section, or someone going in the comment section about me being biased towards Calvin Reina, for example. I'm not necessarily biased towards Calvin Reina. I just think that there are players in the domestic setup that should be given opportunities. My thing is that it is contradictory what Boucher says. So on the one hand, he says that he's going to give people in domestic cricket an opportunity. Okay, so we talk about the guys that performed in the T20 CSA T20 challenge. But then you go give Aiden Markram. Now I love Aiden Markram, and I'm a big fan of Aiden Markram. But he gave Aiden Markram an opportunity that hasn't performed in the T20 challenge. When you've got, he picks Pat van Biljon, when we've got a player of color that also did equally well in Zubair Hamza, scored more half centuries in the tournament, right? Averaged at 48, strike rate at 123. Strike rate was higher than Pat van Biljon, scored 2 half centuries, more than Pat van Biljon, and a total of 145 runs, only about 3 shy. Player of color, about 10 shy, 9 shy. Player of color as well. So we're looking for players of color that can bat in the top order, and you're not picking him. We can go to another example. People are talking about Temba Bavuma getting dropped. Temba Bavuma is the captain now, besides the point. But before he was captain, people were talking about him being dropped. Second highest run scorer in the tournament. People didn't want to see Riza Hendricks in the squad. Riza Hendricks top run scorer in the tournament. We've got another option over here. We're looking for black African batsmen. Kayo Zonda did a good job. Now, not by all means saying that we should pick these players. I'm just saying that if you're going to give people recognition, like you say, for their performances, and you use that as an example, you use the CSA T20 challenge as an example for why you're giving them a chance, then do it that then. Because you can't say on the one hand that, oh no, it's too soon for them, but then you pick guys when they've never played for this country before, out of nowhere as well. So you're contradicting yourself with your selections for the squad. Next point of view that I just want to get here with Ravi, and I think Ravi, this is something that we also see in football a lot. It's the talk about being a good coach and number of caps as a player. That's something that's always been in the talks. Now, people automatically say no, because you've played 100 and odd games for your country, you should be the coach of the country. You should be able to coach a team. That isn't necessarily always the case when it comes to that. There are cases, yes, but it's also temperament, I feel. For example, how can Boucher be a batting coach when he wasn't the best batsman in South Africa's setup when he was batting? How can that be the case when we're talking about those type of things? So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, there's a strong party that is for picking people that were previous players that played a lot of games. Look here, Rashid Singh, you're going to talk to me only for performed in the CSA T20 challenge. I'm going to tell you once again, how can it become? Carl played, if I'm use Carl, George Linder, all of those guys, they performed in all the formats in South African cricket. Carl's in the test side, he's in the ODI squad, and he's in the T20 squad, but he doesn't get to play. So I know you have your own agendas, but I can counter-attack any agenda that you put over here, and I don't want to sound like a smart ass, so I'm not going to go after what you're saying. Ravi, your thoughts on that? Legends versus having played for your country and just being a coach that hasn't played for your country before. Does that make a massive difference for you if you were in a position to be able to pick a coach? Because in football, you see it a lot. Like, for example, Jose Mourinho, one of the greatest managers of all managers. I wouldn't say all time, but one of the greatest managers that have come around in the last generations. But he's never played necessarily at the highest level. We've got the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson, one of the greatest managers of all time. There, I can say it. Never really took his football to a next level. Then you've got the likes of Pep Guardiola, who's played at the highest level, and he's a good coach. And the likes of Jurgen Klopp, who played a little bit of football as well. Etc. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, Khalid, you raise a valid point there, but I think there's varying dynamics. There's considerable differences with all of those different formats. I know rugby and football were mentioned tonight in the discussions, but in saying that, though, I remember a similar comment over 2 years ago where someone was saying, why is Neil McKenzie the batting coach of South African cricket? He wasn't even the best batsman. We were wasting our time with him. And then what is it, a year after that, we played Bangladesh in the World Cup. And Neil McKenzie happened to be the batting coach of Bangladesh. And they opened a massive can of whoop ass on South Africa. They pasted our bowlers all over the ground, right? This is a much more aggressive Bangladeshi batting unit. And we have to say to ourselves, let's move our biases aside. Let's move away from previous reputations while it does make sense from a coaching standpoint. And we have to go with ability. We have to go with the coaches. I mean, we have to go with coaching repertoire uh, as opposed to actual playing reputations as well. I think that was the problem with Mark Barter getting a vote of confidence from a number of South African cricket fans is that the truth is he's had a decorated career, over 147 tests for South Africa. He's been a mainstay in South African Test cricket. It was a devastating loss to the game when he succumbed to that injury in the UK tour of 2012. And he's by far one of the most decorated individuals in the game. And those winning runs he scored in 2006. Those are the memories people think of when they think of a guy like Mark Boucher. But I just want the fans to bear this in mind, right? Let's just pretend there's no names associated with coaches. It's just X, Y, Z. And if you look at the stats of this particular coach, uh, the incumbent has had an England tour, an Australian tour, an away tour of India, an away tour of Pakistan, a homebound tour of Pakistan, a homebound tour of Sri Lanka, and a away tour of India, as I mentioned before. And I'm looking at loss, 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 win, loss, loss, loss. And the reason why I've singled out, and I've put an asterisk next to the most recent tour, because I'm omitting it from the study. The truth is that we didn't have a full strength team this time around. While we can safely say at the varying iterations of that, we can say that the individuals are certainly capable. But if you had to look at the previous tours where we had a relatively full strength side, let's call it 80% of the side are mainstays in the team. Your Kakiso Rabadas were there. Your Quinton de Cox were there. These are strong guys. These are not Mickey Mouse players. These are not debutants anymore. These guys are our match winners. And they were there, right? During the majority of this individual's tenure as coach, right? So now we have to say to ourselves, right? And this is where we need to compare to the other sporting codes. What's the one common factor we have with cricket, with soccer, with rugby, with football? It comes down to performance, right? And it's your tolerances of that. Okay? In football, they've got limited tolerance for low profile performances, in the Premier League especially. Out you go, right? Rugby is the same. When we had a terrible record under Alistair Coetzee for the Springbok seasons of 2016 specifically, is by far one of the worst years in South African rugby. That was a catalyst. That was a turning point to get our act together in the rugby framework. So we need to say to ourselves now, if you look at the stats again, we've lost more than we've won, right? And we've had a full strength side for the majority of Mark Boucher's tenure. So given that, we have to say to ourselves now, how much time are we going to need? Are we going to wait for him to anchor A.B. de Villiers? Because I can guarantee you one thing. I deal with people's contracts. I talk to people every day about different needs and wants. And the truth of the matter is, if maybe de Villiers wanted to play for South Africa again, he would have done so a long time ago. I think we need to close the book on Mr. de Villiers. I love A.B. de Villiers. I enjoy watching him bat. But the thing is that he's not going to come. We're going to waste our times. We're pining for a long-lost lover right now. I think you would appreciate that because he's got a massive library of Bollywood movies at home, I'm sure. But the thing is that, as does Khalid, by the way,
No,
and the thing
nonsense.
is that, and the thing is, we keep on going back. I mean, we spoke about what we were talking about. Tabang Moreau is waiting in the parking lot to go into CSA. We were talking about AB de Villiers coming back that time already. And I think we need to move on from the subject because every press conference, Lupa is quite right. The one question Mark Boucher is not afraid to answer is the AB de Villiers one. And I think if he's invested more time and capacity into growing and developing his players and actually influencing selection in the right manner, getting the right caliber of players into the team, we wouldn't be having these negative conversations over and over again. I mean, another point, sorry, and I know you asked me something remotely different from what I'm giving feedback on, but I'm still baffled to this point that we only had 4 specialist batters in the last T20 against Pakistan. Of course, we were going to lose that match. We could have played any team. We could have played, underperforming Afghanistan team, and we still would have lost, right? If you play with 4 specialist batters, that is a high risk situation. And there are so many guys that I think we lost in terms of selection. Ryan Rickleton, Grant Rulofsson, Zubair Hamza, Kyle Verena is the guy we've spoken about over and over again. Why on earth did he not get a shot in this match? And yet we invested in so many all-rounders that, and some of which we didn't even bowl. Adile Fekulukwaya didn't even bowl a single ball in one of these matches. I can't even remember. So selection, leadership tactics, those are all under scrutiny right now. And I have to say to the fans, put your biases aside. Look at the stats. Look at how the team has performed. And ask yourself, do you honestly think that under Mark Boucher and under the current, with the current squad that we have at the moment, irrespective of whether AB comes back or not, or comes in the end credits like a Marvel movie, right? Whatever happens, right? Do you honestly think we have a shot at winning the World Cup? Because quite frankly, I think we have to consider this a loss already. There's no ways we're going to stand a chance. If Pakistan themselves were in transition, if I understand correctly, they also had a series of losses. They also had changes of staff. Yet they came on an away tour, very sudden planned away tour, and it had a recipe of disaster written from the beginning already for them. And the thing is, they probably played the best cricket that they've ever expected to play. Baba Razam was seeing it like a beach ball, man. And the thing is that we were literally got the shock of our lives there. I don't know. At some point, we need to say to ourselves, how long do we have to suffer until we see some success? Under the current leadership, under the current management structure, I don't see us turning this thing around. Most corporations would have said we have to dissolve the board by now. We have to change our leader. We have to change our CEO. Football, I've spoken about it before. You mentioned Jose Mourinho. Even when he was on his prime, when he was winning about 90% of his games and he only made it to second, Abramovich still sacked him. He still sacked him. So we need to ask ourselves, how long are we going to tolerate it based on a man's playing reputation? We have to base it on his coaching reputation. Like for like, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm going to say for tonight.
Can I add something very quickly here?
Of course, yeah.
So I think Luba spoke about the brand of cricket that the team is playing and what they are. The one big thing that when Boucher was brought in that everyone was talking about is that no, obviously he's got the international experience. He's going to get this team, even though we're going to be losing, he's going to get this team to being a hard-nosed Protea team, the same way he played. So this team was going to embody his character as that he had as a player. Has this team embodied that? Regardless of the quality of the players, you can come at me with whatever you want to come at me, transformation, whatever it is, but regardless of the quality of the players, is this team playing that hard-nosed cricket that everyone was saying the South African cricket team became soft or whatever it was? Is it there? I don't see it. And I think where it goes to Ravi's point in terms of the statistics, how long must we all sit and suffer and give him excuses? Because that's what he said at the press conference. He's like, yes, I've lost a lot of series, but there are excuses. And I was like, but I get that, but dude, results are what we pay you for. We don't pay you to fight and give us excuses. Yes, you can blame players or whatever it is, but when it comes down to selection, when it comes down to getting the players ready, it's all on you. The buck stops with you. It doesn't stop with the 3 other selectors on the selection panel. It doesn't stop with the captain. It stops with you. But to a certain extent, for me, that's the one thing that bothers me, is that this Proteas team across all 3 formats isn't playing that hard-nosed cricket that I will grind out results, that never say die cricket we've seen. In the early 2000s, where Graham Smith was trying to get this team ticking again and trying to get those hard-nosed cricketers going before we hit that little crevice up to the top of the world.
Oops, Lopavado, you want to add something as well?
Yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah, there was something that I wanted to add quickly. I was actually watching the show. I think it was it last night, I think. And I read through some of the comments there. One thing I've always found a bit disheartening about our cricket is that it's always so easy to blame transformation, to blame quotas and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, as far as coaches are concerned, they are a bit too rigid. Personally, I'd like to see them become a bit friendly to, like, they need to accommodate for injury and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, using Cota's transformation as an excuse for the results that we've had now is a bit, I don't know what to say it is. If you look at coaches that came before, numbers were being calculated per season, they were doing well, even though their numbers were calculated per match. So for me, I feel like if we're using coaches and transformation as an excuse to say, well, that's why he's not winning matches. Well, the truth is he's even behind. So how then are we saying it's because of the numbers that the team is not losing? Because the team is behind the numbers that are expected. So for me, I'd understand if we were saying, well, the team is not losing because of the numbers, and the team was 100% on the dot in terms of the numbers. But the team is behind, and they're not even trying to play catch up. But we're still blaming the numbers. For me, it doesn't make sense. I feel like somehow, at some point, he's gonna have to take responsibility as a coach. For me, it's worrying that a coach can stand in front of journalists and say it's the players. That's a bad sign for me. The same way for a captain. If a captain can hold a mic and say it's a certain player or it's certain players, that's a bad sign then. Because coach, captain, whenever you're the one who's on the firing line, you take the shots, you take them on the body, you take for the team. When you go back to the team, then you say, well, team, you guys played crap out there. But you can't just go out to media and say, well, it's the players, it's my teammates. It doesn't work like that. You're the first line of defense for the team when it comes to taking blows from media. So for me, it's like he's shifting the blame. Okay, it's fine. Hopefully next series is going to drop those players. I'm not expecting to see the same players because we're losing. And he's saying it's players that came with a certain way that they wanted to play. Their way of wanting to play is not working. Put them out. He must bring in players that are going to play the way that he wants to play.
Yeah. You know what, coaches at international level, even if it is international level, you want to see improvements in players. Since the World Cup, KG Rabada, Quinton de Kock, guys like Lungi Ngidi, Andile Peklequayo, let's see, someone else. Those guys have digressed, actually, as cricketers for the national side. They might have played less, but they haven't they're not playing at the same level as we knew they were before. And that's an unfortunate thing. He's not necessarily getting the best out of his players. And that's what we're sitting with at the moment. There's another thing that I just wanted to say that adds on to Lubabala's point from Wally, and that is, unfortunately, our policies, due to past injustices, are what they are. Coaches know this when they accept a job, and they have to perform within these parameters. It's 100% true. It's not like Boucher came into this blindly. He knew exactly what the transformation targets were. He knows exactly what the system is, what is required of him at the international level. Hell, he's been in South African domestic cricket with the Titans. He knows about domestic getting transformation targets because they have a more stricter policy at domestic cricket. So it's much more strict at domestic cricket, where it's per game. Whereas with the Proteas, he has the luxury of picking 7 white players, 8 white players. He can pick 11 if he wanted to, and then make it up in the rest of the other teams. So the quotas aren't as strict as you guys out there think. It's a lot more lenient at international level than you think. So that's the situation that we're currently sitting in. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot for the show. Thanks a lot to Mpo, Aditya, Lubabalo, and Ravi for coming on the show as well. To all the guys in the comment section that have tuned in, thanks a lot to you guys too. Don't forget to obviously like, comment, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell for all future videos. We're really growing as a community. We want to grow as a family. So thanks a lot, and share with everybody out there. We'll see you again tomorrow, guys, with another daily show. We're going to be talking a lot about the new domestic structure, of course, because we're hoping that we're going to see the new signings, the new teams coming out this week sometime, and getting the news stories break. We're probably going to break. I think the deadline for teams to be in is probably on Tuesday, I think it is. So probably Wednesday we will most likely see a team sheets out, hopefully. I don't know what's going to happen over there, so we'll have to see. I have to kiss my shirt because Damon asked me to. So that's just one of those things. I love the situation that United is finding themselves in. I'm just happy that we are sitting where we are.
I think Mpo is also happy. I'm pretty sure he's happy with the result in London as well, I believe.
Yeah, now calm down. No.
We should change Mpo's name to Mpo 97.
That's a proper London derby, that meant two equal teams, going against each other. Proper London derby.
Khalid, Europa League final. If we make it there, we're coming for you.
Villarreal's gonna knock you out.
Note I said if because things could.
Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another daily show. Take care. Remember, guys, the new schedule, 6 o'clock for the daily show. Thanks a lot for tuning in. See you, everybody, and enjoy your evening. Peace.